Hello there guys, it's Joey and this video is going to be all about the Greek goddess Persephone. I will try and pronounce it correctly the whole way through, no promises. Queen of flowers and the underworld. So I had a request for a set for Persephone and the set was just the request. It was I was given an outline and I was like, oh, that's so in keeping with how this year has been energy wise and spiritually wise that I really was super excited to do it. And there were quite a few key themes here and things we can talk about as well. I'm going to see if I can just pop the rose in my ear because, you know, I'm going to be sad like that. Hang on, sad like that. What do you reckon? Is it going to stay? I don't know. We'll find out. I'm growing flowers from my hair. No. Anyway, enough of that. And so the request for the spell set was for ascent and descent, so kind of having a duality to it. And I was so excited to explore this energy and then sit here and talk to you guys about it. The physical items, as always, will be at the end of the video, although they're kind of like here. And so you can see those if you want, and if not, if you'd rather just listen to the spiritual discussion points, theories, feelings, Joey Jabber, shimmy shim, then that will be the first part of the video. And if you just came here to see me weird, you've got your fill already. So there you go. Right. So then also, look, I got a pink one. You can get these in store right now as well. I got some for you guys if you want them on store. There's only 2 left. So if you want one, go grab one quick because they're going like hotcakes. Right, so Persephone. Persephone is a goddess in the Greek pantheon, and the Greek pantheon suffers from patriarchal retelling of myth. And there is a lot to be said for the fact that the Greek myths require some peeling. They're very Apple-like in that sense. You need to peel back the myths because the way that female goddesses are presented is not good. They're either like the shrew or the victim, and this is probably true for all of the goddesses, and Persephone actually gets both, which is a little bit unfortunate, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I was actually doing a Hera set last week, and I was like, we need to peel back these myths because Hera is just presented as like jealous and, I mean, rightfully so, Zeus put your dick in everything. But there was a primalness, a primality behind a Hera, and she was much older than the Greek pantheon, and it starts to make sense that they would bring in this kind of glossing over to make her less. And at the same time, they couldn't quite manage it because she was still just as powerful as Zeus, and she ruled over all these many, Joey throws her arms around and knocks things over, many realms in humanity and women and marriage, but like all of humanity was within her realm, and she was supposed to be on par with Zeus. She was supposed to be as an equal, his queen, and it was very bizarre trying to pick through the myth and trying to feel out what was actually going on. Now Persephone has been on my mind a lot lately, her and Demeter, and Chris and I have talked about this in some of our crossover videos, if you like crossover, that kind of works. Because we're crossing over to the underworld. And we were talking a little bit about how the Demeter and Persephone myth really highlights life and death and the interconnectedness between it. And I said in a blog post about underworld journeying on my blog post, which you can find the link for underneath, that when I go underworld travelling, lightness and darkness and life and death are very much interwoven, and they're interwoven in this kind of labyrinth style. And that's how I personally visualize it. So when I go down and I'm traveling through, it's like you're moving through a labyrinth, and light and dark are interwoven into one space, and you can turn the corner and then you're suddenly in the other, and they're meshed. They're not polarities. And my little Rose has gone for a walk. Okay, all right, come on then. You can go on the floor and pop it there. And when we were talking, me and Chris, this channel, the royal when we were talking about this mythos, because there's a lot of this Demeter and Persephone myth is in Women Who Run with the Wolves, And it's very much about female empowerment, which is what we're going to be talking about with Persephone, and kind of re-empowering these goddesses in the myth, because they are powerful and amazing and wondrous, and the myths are awful for the most part, and we have to kind of dissect what's going on, what's really going on. They're not awful, but they... I think that was the post bonk in the middle of the video, and if you can't hear it, there was a loud thunk right there. Okay, so we talked about the fact that when Persephone went into the underworld, a piece of life went with Persephone from Demeter, and a piece of death from Persephone went back to Demeter, and Demeter sort of manifests that because she's a goddess in mourning, and when she's mourning and the whole world is dying and it's the dark half of the year and all that death. And so the basis of the myth is to explain autumn and winter, but it goes beyond that in terms of it's a physical manifestation of mourning. It's a physical manifestation of that death that she took into herself in order that a piece of life might go with Persephone so that she may be reborn and ascend again in the spring. And Persephone moves between the underworld and the above world, if you like, the human realm. And because she is a queen of flowers, when she ascends, that is bringing spring, and when she descends, Demeter again brings death. And there's this intercorrelation with mother and daughter, although some feel that it's kind of a triple aspect, but I mean, for me, they kind of feel like it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say they're definitely separate entities because all divinity isn't separate. There's an interconnectedness between all divinity. But still there is a role and an archetype and an understanding and a communication there that crosses over. And so we can't say that they're separate completely because they're not. But there is sort of a passing on of something, like a passing on of energy, an ellipsis of energy, or Ouroboros is what's in my head because of other things. But ellipsis is the infinity symbol, so it's like the eternal pathways. And Persephone to me very much is the walker, the wanderer, the magician, the priestess of that eternal wandering, eternal life walking, that eternal ascent and descent into the realm of death and the realm above world. And what is interesting to me is that her descent into the underworld is about going to her husband, and the ascent above, she comes away from him. So in my feeling, I feel like Persephone loves Hades and Hades loves Persephone. I don't feel like it was like theft and abduction and rape and the things that the myths promote. The myths promote that she smelt like flowers and she was a goddess of flowers and he could not help himself and he like abducted her. But then later on in the myths, like Persephone, if she thinks any other nymph is trying to get with her husband, she turns those nymphs into plants like Hera, like with the best of them. And if you don't care for your husband, you don't turn nymphs into plants, just saying, because you don't care. But I don't get that feeling at all. I have the feeling like there may have been elements of that story originally which was about a young woman's empowerment and marrying who she chose for love, and the getting away from the family unit and the family expectation and marrying for love. But because the Greek society was very much about you will marry who you're told for, you know, political gain or monetary wealth or whatever, that kind of then got shifted into, well, we don't need that because that's not what we're teaching our young daughters. You know, they will marry for mother's sake and father's sake, and they will marry who they're told, or they will bring death. And that's how the myth kind of gets twisted. But I don't feel like that at all. I feel like she went with him and she loves him. Otherwise, you know, who cares about nymphs, you know? So it's interesting to me that her descent is about love, is about marriage, is about le petit amour, is about the coming together with masculine and feminine. And this is presented as a time of death and darkness, and her life and things, because they're in the underworld. But at the same time, that's her embracing her love, embracing the life force within herself that she willingly gives to Hades. And then when she ascends, this brings life back to the world. So it's a little bit like the sort of counterbalance of love, that she must share her love for her husband in a very particular way, and she must share her love for the world in a very generalized way. And so there's kind of like this interplay between ascent and descent there as well. Now, the thing that the lady for the set had asked me about and wanted me to talk about, and I agree, is like this sovereignty element to Persephone. She said, like, I don't feel like she's not emboldened by her own sovereignty. She is her own queen. She's the queen of the underworld, queen of Hades, and that's quite prominent, you know, that's a thing, and she has an influence on him as his queen. In the case of Orpheus and Eurydice, she persuades Hades to allow the lovers to go back to the world of the living, and that is no small feat, because Hades is all about his structure, his natural order, his balance. He does not allow the dead to go back. He is wrathful if people try and steal the dead from his realm, and people take that as, oh, he's like this vengeful god, but no, he's trying to stop the dead rising and the natural balance of things, the natural order of things, because once people have passed into the underworld, that is that stage of their journey, and trying to go back is counterintuitive, counterproductive to their spiritual. And you know, if everyone came back straight away, zombie uprising, not good. We all know how zombie uprisings end. Chompy chompy, bad bad. So Hades really does maintain order, but Persephone is so moved by this love story, she's so moved by the music that Orpheus plays, that she pleads with him to allow this to happen. She asks him, and he allows it. He allows the one thing that he would not normally allow because the love of his life asked him it. I don't feel like there's imbalance there at all. It's a balance, a perfect balance of sovereignty within Hades and Persephone. I 100% believe that. I feel like there's a love story and a balance there, and a beautifulness to it, that because of patriarchal agendas maybe, and maybe like something has been lost in the retelling maybe, and all these problems that you get with myth, that we lose some of that, and I don't really agree with it. So Persephone is often presented as victim, and I've mentioned this, and this kind of goes against her sovereignty, and I don't feel like that at all. I feel like she made this choice. She decided to marry for love, even though the person that she loved was perhaps not expected, or perhaps was not approved of by Demeter, her mother and things, because let's face it, she went for the goth boy. She went for the goth boy. I feel you, Persephone, I feel you. And that's oversimplification, but you know what I mean. And she chose that. And she chose to become this eternal wanderer between the realms. She chose to descend and ascend between different parts of the year. And yes, there are these myths saying she had to stay because she ate so many pomegranates, and she was tricked into it by Hades. And I don't feel like that's what's happened. I feel like the two of them got together and were like, they're coming, what can we do? And he compromised, is what I feel like. Or she compromised, or they both compromised. They decided to, and she decided to eat that many pomegranate seeds in order to stay there with him for that period of the year. And the dividedness within her, because she must have loved her family, and she must have really loved him, and it kind of brings into these queenly decisions that Persephone has made that are underlying the myth, but aren't at the, you know, it's not stated she made this decision. She was tricked into it. It's like, come on now. Come on now. The woman with the wit and intelligence to persuade Hades to be queen of the underworld didn't have the wit to not eat 6 pomegranate seeds, or 3 pomegranate seeds, depending on which retelling of the myth you're reading. I don't feel that at all. I feel like this was her choice. This was her heart and her mind, perhaps, having to structure her life around what she truly loved and truly desired, and where she felt her duties were. And she may have felt duties on both sides, and she may have felt love on both sides, which is again this beautiful balance between this wanderer. So she felt the love and the duty for her family. She felt the love and the duty to her husband, and therefore she has committed herself to perhaps not an easy life path of going between, of always being in one place or another. And that is interesting to me. It's like, is she? Is she only in these two places, or are we being too structured in our thinking of this? Is it actually much more fluxy than this? Is it possible that she exists in both places and wanders in between them all at once? She's a goddess. I would say that's probably a fair bet. And I don't feel that it may be that the time of the year means that her energy is stronger in one place than the other. So like in the dark half of the year, it's stronger in the underworld and her presence is more felt there. But I feel like she could coexist. I feel like she is the queen of her own destiny, and she could coexist in both those places quite easily if she wanted to. I've created the ascent and descent as requested, but I really do feel that those two concepts are interwoven, that she can rise and fall, or ascend and descend at the same time, because we often think of ascent as being like the good thing and descent as being the bad thing, and it's even within terminology, and it's a very Christocentric thing. You ascend to heaven, you descend to hell, and there are sort of literary examples of this: descent into madness. Down is considered a bad thing, and interestingly enough, down is often considered more feminine. If you consider female anatomy being downward triangle, and then when masculine energy is, aroused upward. So it again, is there this kind of usage of words to promote, like, don't you be rising, females, don't you be, empowering yourselves, don't you be queening yourselves right up. And I don't feel like that at all with Persephone. Like, I think we need to retell her myths. We need to say, this is a queen. And there's this beautiful, beautiful meme, which is like Persephone is a queen of flowers, as goddess of flowers, as well as queen of hell. And if that's not life goals, I don't know what is. And I was just like, yes, yes. Unicorn goth, yes. So I have big mad respect for her, and I love this interplay between life and death and all the different loves and duties. I just think she is a goddess of flux, and it's polarity, but it's polarity in flux. So it's these different elements of herself which can seem quite separate on the surface of it, but really when you start to delve, they make a ellipsis, and she really is a goddess of ellipsis, of eternity, if you ask me. Okay. Plus, things that grow and things that die off, and there's that element to it as well, which is kind of covered by what I've already said. But we shall show you the shimmy, right? Okay. So there are 4 pillars for the lady who ordered them, but I'm only going to show 2 because there are 2 of each as per request. So I divided the set into Queen of Hades and Queen of Flowers, because they're queen energy all the way through. Yes, please. So first we have Queen of Hades. The Queen of Hades is a tailor-made wax colour that I sat there and blended and blended and blended until it was as close to a pomegranate colour as I could manage within wax. And then the shimmy. The shimmy, 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 shimmy. I love both of these. I'll show you them side by side actually. And then the Queen of Flowers is a white. Now hopefully you can see the colour diffuses down. So you've kind of got like this purple into pink diffusion, like colour through a flower petal. And then shimmy, 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 shimmy. And you see how they feel like they belong together. Yes, 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 queen. Right, and then we have 2 spell oils. So this is Persephone, Queen of Flowers. Again, they will look interconnected. You'll see this in a minute. So the light is a little bit tricky. Oh, you can see my eye. Just. And then Persephone, Queen of Hades. I was going to call it Queen of Tartarus, but Tartarus is super long for for like trying to get on the little labels at the no, it would be like Queen of Tarts, and then you're like, no, that's not what we wanted. So Queen of Hades is what it is, but you know, Queen of Tartar is technically Queen of the Underworld. But woo! Or it was, there it went. And then you can see them side by side. So there is a similarity and yet a different energy to each. And a different scent to each as it happens. Obviously. I mean, you know. Right. Then we have the anointing oils, which is going to be a little bit difficult for show and tell. So that one's Queen of Flowers. And this one's Queen of Hades. So Queen of Flowers with a rollerball. These two are so good. I'm having one of these. Just the Queen of the Underworld one, I'm having one of these. So the Queen of Flowers is obviously a sweeter scent. It's still very sovereign, it's still very royal, it's still very packs a punch, there's a strength to it, but it has that little bit more of a floral undertone. But I didn't want to go like full on flimsy flower, if that makes sense. Flimsy flower, is that a thing? It is now. Because she's not that. She's very empowered and very emboldened, even when she's in her Queen of Flowers form. I mean, I feel like she chose Hades. I feel like that was a choice. I feel that that was her strength. So even in the Queen of Flowers days, she's still strong. I just want to eat you. So this is the Queen, not really. The Queen of Hades is just, I don't know how to express this to you. It's Queen of Hades. It smells like the Queen of the Underworld. She has there is a little tiny floral underbite, but not much, and then it's all earthy and underworldy and sexy as fuck. Oh, it's so good. Okay, and then we have the salts. So she only wanted one salt, so the salts are just for Persephone in general. So there is a mix. You can't really see. Okay, yeah, actually side on's better. Otherwise, I'm gonna drop it everywhere. There you go. So you can see that there is a mixture between underworld and flowers. So it's very much like flowers in the earth for Persephone for the salts. And then we have unlabeled smudges. So I'm going to have to... Right. So this one is the Queen of Flowers. And it's very floral. It's very pretty. It's very sweet. Oh, it's so fresh, refreshing and uplifting. Those. I love this. I love all the scents of these Persephone things. I'm just like, I might have to make and keep myself one for each of these because they're so good. Even if I do say so myself. And then, there we go. Get the lid off. Cheese and crackers. Right, and then this is Queen of Hades. So again, there are a couple of like common threads through. Oh, this one's so much deeper and richer. This is the thing, I was struggling with a little bit more with the Queen of Flowers than I was with the Queen of Underworld, and I was like, I'm going to do Queen of Flowers first because I need to get my head around the lighter, fluffier, florally bits before I just do my jam, which is the Underworld bits, because the Underworld bits, everybody, everyone loves the Underworld bits. It's so much easier to me. I'm just like, boom, I know what I want, I know what I want, I know what I want, I want that, and that, and I want that scent, and yes, baby. That's me with my Underworld stuff. As well as like the above world, I'm like, okay, reel back in from the death. Go to a life space. What would we do? And it takes a little bit longer. It doesn't take too long, but it takes a bit longer than the natural fire for the Underworld. So this, yeah, this is Queen of Hades. And I love it. I love it. I love it. And that's it. There are 4 pillars, as I said, but that is it for those items. The smudges will definitely be available on store. I might make the pillars available on store, and the rest depending on what people want. If you want one of the perfume oils, just be like, Joey, I need a Queen of the Underworld Persephone anointing oil. That sounds delicious. And I'll be like, okay, or I can do that. So that's it for this video all about Persephone. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've kind of had to like reel myself in a little bit because otherwise we would be here for hours, because I could probably talk about different elements of Persephone for hours. So any thoughts, comments, pop them down below. I'll try and get back to you ASAP, and mwah, and see you on the flip.